my opinion, this is the easy access to credit. After 2010, Obama signed into law that all student loan debt is supposed to be directly borrowed from the Department of Education. So what people don't know these days is the Department of Education is a bank. If you looked at how many assets they have in terms of student loan size, it would be the 5th largest bank in the United States. But no one ever thinks of the Department of Education as a bank. They think it's just some sort of government department that does paperwork and stuff like that. But no, it's a bank. And in the last 13 years, since 2010, it has tripled the student loan balance in the United States. Yeah. And I think it's this easy access to credit that has fueled it, because who earns money from this? The colleges, they know, okay, students are willing to pay anything to go to our school. And if they can get easy access to this money, we'll charge whatever we can get away with, right? So a school like Boston University, which is a school that my husband attends right now for his PhD program, as an undergrad, the cost of going to Boston University has increased by 25% since 2010. How can something inflate like this at this rate? It's insane. But another thing is, I think part of the problem is it's not just on the supply side. So that's the supply side, right? There's also the demand side. A lot of people, they have this belief that if they invest more money into their education, then they will have an upper hand in the job marketplace. For some reason, they call this an investment. I meet so many people, they're like, college is an investment for your future. But if you talk to a real investor who actually invests money into things, they want to buy low and sell high. They want to put as little money as possible into something and see how much it can grow. So personally, I feel like if you're a real investor looking to get into college, you want to get into the most affordable college you can get into that actually has value, and try to make the most money as possible after you get out. But the way people do it these days is they go to BU. My friend's daughter went to BU a few years ago for $50,000 a year. So basically they paid $200,000 in tuition. She came out and she became an elementary school teacher. You don't need a $200,000 degree to become an elementary school teacher. I personally don't think that was a very financially sound decision that she made. That was not an investment, Yeah.
It's been driven into us for years. I do a lot of personal development. I do a lot of professional development. I did one semester at university and was asked to go back to year 10. And I've heard for so many years, the more you learn, the more you earn. But I know hundreds, if not thousands of my students who've gone to university, they've got the first degree, they've got the master's degree, they've got the PhD, and they're still not successful. They're not earning the type of money that they thought they would. And they seem to struggle for years. It's like they're not even going to work for themselves anymore. It's like they go to work just to pay off that debt, and they don't get the quoted success that they're looking for. Yes, they get their certificate, but their income isn't going up. Like you mentioned here, the investment isn't producing the return that they expected. And in a lot of places now, the wages are actually going down. I've seen a lot of businesses around the world saying, we don't want to hire for skill. We don't want to hire for knowledge anymore because knowledge is cheap. Books are cheap. Education's cheap. Maybe the loan's not. But we want to hire for attitude. And I think you've proven this before, is that you've landed an accounting job 3 times in a row and you didn't even have the degree. So what did you learn through that experience? You've applied, you've got 3 accounting jobs, no degree. What did you learn about education and the importance or lack of importance?
Well, before I get into that question, there's something you said about how people want to get more degrees. They think getting more degrees is going to help them earn more money. That's a false belief. I actually had a client come to me after he read my book, The 5-Day Job Search. He's an accountant himself. He has the degree. He's worked in one of those big accounting firms as well. And he was unemployed for the last 4 months. So he came to me because he read the book. He was like, wait, this accountant didn't have an accounting degree, but managed to do it 3 times in a row. So his question to me coming into the first session was like, Annie, what certificate do I need? Where do I get this certificate? Is there a certificate I should be getting? What should I be studying? Like, which school should I be getting certificates from? Do I need more certificates? And I was like, man, can you stop focusing on getting more certificates? That's not even the first question. You're focusing on the wrong thing here. We don't care about your certificates. We care more about your skill. What can you actually do? Forget about the piece of paper. Do you know how to solve these problems that employers are throwing at you? So my secret to getting these accounting jobs without an accounting degree was I showcased my knowledge. So essentially, I wrote a first book. It was called 1001 Ways to Save Money back in 2017. No one's ever heard of this book in 2017. I made no sales that first year. But then in around, I think, 2018, 1 year later, when I was moving to Boston, I decided, you know what? I'm going to make my mark on this town. I'm going to make a difference. People are going to know my name. I don't care if I don't have an accounting degree. I'm going to apply for accounting jobs because personally, in my personal life, while I don't have any experience in accounting, I was really good at managing my own money. So I'm basically the CFO of my household. I did all the budgeting. We know how to live on a very tight budget, very frugal. We could live on like minimum wage, but still be able to save $5,000 a year on minimum wage. So I figure, okay, if I have this personal skill set, maybe there's some way I can apply this to helping a business manage their finances. Maybe the best kind of thing is accounting, right? So I have this book in my hand, 1001 Ways to Save Money, and I have all these accounting jobs to apply to. On my resume, right above the line that says my degree is in communications, I put author of 1001 Ways to Save Money. So I had a whole bunch of people calling me up for interviews, and when I got into those interviews, they completely ignored the fact that I had a degree in communications. They were more interested in the fact that I wrote a book. What's funny is that book took me only 3 months to write and publish. Like to write it, edit it, format it, and put a cover on it. It took 3 months from start to finish. And it's literally just a list that I created. It's not like fancy writing. It's 1001 Ways to Save Money. And my bachelor's degree took me 2 years to finish. Employers were more impressed by something I did in 3 months than something I did in 2 years. They told me that they thought having a book under my name meant that I must have had a lot of discipline to set my mind to doing something and seeing it through.
Business people think differently. They don't necessarily care what it is. They care what it does. And do you want an accountant with a certificate, or do you want to save a bunch of money? They're always going to say, I want to save a bunch of money. Do you want an accountant, or do you want somebody to help you make money? The business owner says, I want somebody to help me make money. And that's about attitude. Yes, you've got skill set, but on the other side, you've got attitude. And business people look at this. I've had the same experience, Annie. I wrote a book many years ago, 15 of them, all self-published.
Oh my gosh, you've written 15 of them. 15?
Yep. I don't advertise them. I'm not an Amazon bestseller. I'm none of that. But what I did was when I apply for a job, but it's really what I'm selling my service, is I will give a business owner a copy of my book that solves the problem they have.
That's your business card. Your book is your business card.
That's the business card. This is the problem. This is the solution. They read the book and they say, can you fix it? They don't ask about certificates because we've already proven competency. And most humans do this. It's when you go and sit in front of a doctor, the doctor's wearing the schmuck. They're in the doctor's, what do they call it? A doctor's office? What do they call it? Practice.
Doctor's office.
Doctor's office, and you assume competency. So when you've got the book, they assume competency. If you've proven it here, then you can do it with us. And I think that's so important for a lot of our audience, is that they do get caught up on their certificates. But how many times have you been on an aircraft and asked to see the pilot's license?
Never.
Never. You just assume competency. You jump in an Uber, a Lyft, a taxi. You just assume competency. You might vaguely see the license.
Hey, man, this is like asking that joke about, what do you call a doctor who got C's in medical school? A doctor. exactly that joke.
We say in Australia, P's equal degrees.
We say C's get degrees, but P is for passing, right?
P's for pass, because the pass mark today for a lot of things is so low. It's so low. And my wife and I had that conversation. I said, you could bend over backwards, you could break your back doing these assignments, and you might get 100% in everything. But at the end of the day, you're going to get the exact same certificate. And from a business person's perspective, you've got to have to demonstrate competence. And I always learned in business that there's two very important things for a business person. Can you make or save me money? Can you make and save me time? Well, if somebody's got 1,001 ways to make or save me money, I get all of my time back. I don't have to dedicate 20 hours a week to bookkeeping or accounting. It's done.
I got to share this story with you because I really love to save money. Like, I count every penny in my own life. I remember I went into this Japanese grocery store. It was new in town, just opened up. But they were originally from Connecticut, where in Connecticut, they charge sales tax on candy. But in Massachusetts, there's no sales tax on candy. And I remember going home because my husband had bought this bag of gummies, right? And I'm looking at the receipt and it says T next to it. I'm looking at the bottom of the receipt. I saw that they charged 6 cents in sales tax. I was so upset because I pay attention to little things like this. I went all the way back to the store. I paid $1.75 to get out on a train to go all the way back to that store and say, I want my 6 cents back. You know? And then I actually, like, when interviewers asked me about saving money, I say, listen, I will go all the way back to that store for a 6-cent refund on the sales tax. I will make sure no one ever rips you off, even for 6 cents in your business. They're not gonna take $1 more, a penny more from you. No one's gonna rip you off. You know, they love it. They love it.
I'm glad you love the word budget, because when my wife and I hear the word budget, we abreact. We hear budget and we go, ah! Our philosophy is, if my wife, she sent me a picture of a new Louis Vuitton handbag today, and she said, husband, it's been 2 years. And so we don't think about budgeting. We do the opposite. We say, how can we make another sale? And so if the wife wants anything, husband, make another sale. If the kids want something, make another sale. If they want to go business class on the aircraft, make another sale. But mention budget to us, we hate it. So you've written a book. You've got 3 accounting jobs without the degree, and you've also had a really big impact on social media. And I think people underestimate social media, because for many years we talked about email databases. But with an email database, it's hard to take it from one business to another. It's hard to take an email database from one offering to another offering without the person's permission. But today we've got our LinkedIn audience. And it doesn't matter what job we have, what company we go to, or what part of the world, is we take that audience. We take our Instagram audience on our mobile phone, wherever we go. We've got our Facebook audience, and we've also got our YouTube audience. And you've created more than 1 million views on one of your YouTube videos. Once you had those 1 million views, how did that open up doors for you? What started to change for you?
It didn't actually, it's not like my whole life changed all of a sudden. It was just more like, I feel like people had their eyes on me and I just felt really uncomfortable, but I wasn't going to stop making videos, you know. I would say that so-called accomplishment helped me land my 3rd accounting job. So I had put on my resume, you know, garnered over 1 million views on my YouTube channel on how to budget and save money. That's what made my current employer just pounce on me right away. Like, I need you to into an interview
to what you're
right
doing
now. You know, like, I had applied on a Monday evening, and then 7 a.m. the next morning, I'm on my phone. First thing I do is I check my email in the morning, and then I'm like so sleepy. Everything's blurry because I don't have my contact lenses on, and I just see, I would like you to come into an interview on Thursday. I was like, huh? I literally just applied last night, you know? But he really wanted me in this interview. So I got in, and after he heard about all the various things, I got a job offer on the 5th day, that Friday. But it was on my resume that I got over 1 million views that people were just like jumping on me, right? Another thing is,
What
it's
do you
all
think
about
it meant
it's
in the terms of the psychology of that other person looking at it? What do you think it meant to them to see that 1 million views?
it's social proof. It's a form of social proof. So something that they teach in actually anthropology 101 in college. Like I remember the first class I took in that semester, the professor said there's 4 forms of capital. There's financial capital, so everyone knows about money. If you have money, life is more easy for you. There's social capital. Who do you know? Right? Connections matter as well. Everyone knows that. There's recognition. So, and then I forget what the 4th one is, but I remember very specifically like being recognized for something is a form of capital in itself. So either saying you're a best-selling author, you've won some sort of award, you have 1 million views, 1 million followers, something like that. That's a form of recognition. That's a form of social proof as well. So that's what gives you capital in the marketplace. I specifically remember learning that in class, and I figured, okay, for my career, I don't want to just earn more money and accumulate wealth. I have to do all of that. I have to expand the network as well. I have to get recognized. So.
This model you're talking about, we have a client and his name's Mario Beckish and he's an author. And he talks about social engineering. And in social engineering, he talks about the PEST model. So you've got to have political influence, economical influence, social influence, and then technological influence.
Interesting.
And for you here, there's definitely the social proof here, and also the ability to use technology, and that is huge in social engineering. Mm-hmm. And I know the power of social media for myself when people see me there.
There's something you said though. You're pointing out the fact that I got 1 million views on my channel, right? That number is bigger than the fact that I have 18,000 subscribers. So it used to be that when I wrote my bio by myself, I wrote that I got 18,000 subscribers on my channel. I went to a professional for help with my bio, and she's like, we can make this sound better. We can just put, you got over 1 million views in your bio, and just leave it at that. And it definitely sounded a lot more, attractive, I would say.
It's a fact, and it can also be proved. There's a lot of opinions. Like when we watch the news today, it's not news, it's not fact, it's opinion news. It's just somebody's opinion. But when you can have a look at a specific number, when you can go to that YouTube link, see that short, see that video, and it has 1 million views, then that is now a fact. It's not an opinion. Here it is. Mm-hmm. I've done it. And then the employer has to now calibrate your application to anybody else's. Here's somebody who's actually proved competence globally to more than 1 million people. Or we've got somebody over here who's got a certificate. And business owners are pragmatic, they're practical. They will lean towards that because they've got to make a decision. And in the decision-making process, that gives them a form of confirmation. This is our girl. She's proven it. Now we've got the girl working for us who's got 1 million views. And then they can send the other person to their competitor and let them ruin their competitor's life. So you've had this 1 million views. What else started to change for you? Did you change your perception of social media? You worked with an expert here who helped you reposition yourself. What else changed after that?
Actually, I'll be very honest, not much of my life changed after that. I think...
Do you sleep differently knowing that you go to sleep with 1 million views?
No. My life changed really, really slowly. I would say the opportunities came slowly as well. I only have about 80 videos on my channel. I actually didn't produce that much content. I have seen people who have about the same amount of subscribers as me, but they have 500 videos, 1,000 videos on their channel. So my video count is actually very small. So I feel like I haven't even produced very much content. At some point, I made a video called how I became a homeowner at 25 years old. And it wasn't even exactly about how I did it. It was just like my joy. I was just like, guys, I have to record the joy of becoming a homeowner at 25 because my friend told me I will never repeat this experience again. Like when I buy my second house or my third house, I won't feel the same amount of joy as the first house. So I just wanted to share my joy with all of you guys. And then apparently that video caught the attention of a very big company. It's a company that partners with Rocket Mortgage and Quicken Loans here in the United States, which is like a very big corporation. And they were like, we saw this video and we want you to make videos for us on how people can become a first-time home buyer. Because you were a first-time home buyer, you got no financial help. And we believe you as a person, like your life story, is going to inspire other people to become homeowners. And they also benefit from that as well because they're selling mortgages, right? So those kind of opportunities came, but they were, I would say, slow. I was never really deliberate with my social media until actually this year after I wrote the 5-day job search, which only came out 2 months ago. Like nowadays, I have an affirmation on my mirror and it says, it's possible that Annie Yang Financial is going to become a $1 billion company. And then another affirmation I have on there is, I'm in the process of having an amazing sales and marketing strategy for Annie Yang Financial, where there are 50 roads that lead into my company, and it'll be like all roads lead to Rome. So I'm basically fleshing out 50 different sales funnels one by one, and one of which is podcasts. So here I am. Yeah.
You're there. You're on one of the paths. A lot of business people have heard of affirmations and they've probably read the book The Secret. And a lot of business people say it's not practical enough for them, but they're trying to figure out how to utilize affirmations. What have affirmations done for you personally? How's that impacted your mindset?
I didn't have a good childhood. My parents have very limiting beliefs. I would say my parents, they do believe in the American dream because they came to the United States with only $400 in their pocket. You know, my mom was a farmer. She drew water from a well. And to come here to be able to earn money and buy cookies that she can eat anytime she wants is her dream come true. But I remember telling my mom at 5 years old, Mom, Dad, I'm going to become famous one day. I'm going to be rich and famous. And then my parents were always like, dreams should stay dreams. Just be realistic. So that's the kind of upbringing that I had. I didn't have encouraging parents necessarily. So I had to use affirmations to retrain my mind on what's possible. The moment I can lift the limit in my subconscious mind of what is possible for me, things begin to change. Like I remember the second accounting job that I landed. During that job search, I was working on a job that paid me $45,000 a year. And because I wanted to buy a house by the time I was 25 years old, I looked at the requirements for the mortgage and it said that you need to make a certain income because of the debt to income ratio. So it's not just enough to save up the down payment. I'm really good at saving. I can do that part, but I need to hit the debt to income ratio part as well by increasing the income. And I would have to go from making $45,000 a year to a minimum of $70,000 a year. Now that was a big jump for me, especially because I didn't have an accounting degree. And one of the recruiters who looked at my resume, he called me 2 days in a row in that job search just to say to my ear, I've been in recruiting for 10 years. I have hired in accounting for 10 years. And let me tell you this, based on your resume and the fact that you don't have an accounting degree, you're not capable of making more than $55,000 a year. I would say if you're really lucky, you can make 60, but 70, that's a stretch. And I was really taken aback by what he said. I went home. I put on an affirmation on the wall that said, I can make $70,000 a year. And I pointed at that. I told my husband, just you watch, I'm going to make $70,000 a year or more. And then 2 days later, when I got in the job interview, I got an $80K offer. 80K. I went back to the recruiter. I said, look at me now. I made an 80K offer. Can you eat your words and take those words back? Been in recruiting for 10 years, Yeah. So
Isn't it
affirmations
fascinating?
work. They really
Isn't it
work.
fascinating? Those limiting beliefs. You've mentioned here, even the recruiter was limited in their beliefs, and your mum was limiting her beliefs, and you're using affirmations to rewire your subconscious mind. I'd be interested to learn, what were the limiting beliefs that your mum had? What did she say to you as you grew up? Because those childhood memories seem to fade, but the painful ones we actually repress because we don't want to hear mum's voice in the back of our head saying, money doesn't grow on trees. We're not rich people. I used to bring water home from the well. What were those stories that your mum would say? What were all those limiting beliefs?
Oh my God, you wouldn't believe this. So growing up, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be an entertainer. So either acting or music. I remember looking at one of those childhood photos. I don't actually remember owning the toy, but looking at the photo, I'm like, wait, we owned a little toy piano keyboard. And I was like hugging it. And I guess that's my first experience with piano. I really wanted to learn piano. I was like desperate to learn piano. I asked for piano lessons for so many years. And my parents, especially my dad, said, no, you can't take piano lessons. Why, Dad? It's because you're going to hurt your fingers, Annie. You're going to injure your fingers. You're going to permanently
What type of piano was
hurt
it?
your hand or something, He repeated this to me so many times. And I was like, but Dad, that doesn't make sense. Diane takes piano lessons. Judy takes piano lessons. Their hands are fine. I don't see anyone injuring their hands. This is ridiculous. So on a conscious level, I never accepted this limiting belief of my dad that playing piano is going to injure my hands, okay? Never believed it because it's ridiculous. Finally, now I'm an adult. I have money. I'm taking piano lessons. I've been taking piano lessons for 2 years. But there's something wrong initially with my playing. I was really like, something wasn't free. I would go in, I would learn from my teacher. I would go home out of practice, come back, and my hands during the lesson would forget what I was doing. Something was wrong. It was like I couldn't figure it out. And then finally, I got a coaching session from a life coach, and I realized I never solved this problem of like, I always felt like for an entire year of those piano lessons, despite practicing 2 hours a day, right? I felt like I was sneaking behind my parents' back. Like I'm waiting for my parents to give me permission to finally play piano. I'm like, when's mom and dad going to say it's okay for Annie to learn piano? And then when I realized, wait, they're never going to give me permission. I have to give myself permission. So I consciously made a statement that night. I said, I give myself permission to learn piano. And then you know what happened? 48 hours later, I injured my hand. I got a hand injury that was so painful on my left wrist. It didn't even make any sense. I went to the doctor. She couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And then my hand was healing. I couldn't play piano for 2 whole weeks. Hand felt so much better. I lifted a 50-pound bag of rock salt. It was fine. My hand could lift 50 pounds of rock salt. And then I said, okay, well, my hand's fine. I'm going to get back on the piano. I got on the piano. I played a key so lightly and so softly. The pain shot up to my wrist. It was intensely painful. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. There's nothing wrong with my hand. My mind is creating this pain. And I had to go through so much just to remove like the limiting beliefs that were caused by my dad's whatever he did to me, that like it took a whole month of healing for this to go away. Yeah. That is the extent of their limiting beliefs. Yeah.
We call that heterogenic conditioning.
What is that? How do you spell that?
Heterogenic conditioning. Gee whiz, I'm not the best speller.
I want to learn. I got to look this up.
Heterogenic conditioning. So heterogenic conditioning.
Okay.
So the words of our parents, mum and dad, or somebody we look up to in authority, grandmother or grandfather or teacher, when spoken from a place of authority, create rules. So if we think about that from a neuro-linguistic programming perspective, it means other people's words program your neurology. So what happens is you accept this command as true, because when these people with authority speak to us, we often have no critical faculty. The conscious mind doesn't accept it. It just accepts it as a command and says, okay, well, if you say I'm going to hurt my hand, then this must be truth. And then throughout our life, we live up to or down to those expectations. If it's a positive expectation and our parents say, Annie, you could be a concert pianist, then for the rest of your life, you're going to have that program in your mind with the belief that you're going to be a concert pianist. And you will live up to that positive expectation. And you'll prove yourself right, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if somebody says something negative like you will play the piano and you will hurt yourself, then you will end up living down to that negative program. And there'll be a time in your life where you make a decision. You'll start to play piano. You're going against your parents. You'll go into a self-sabotaging pattern. The body will create a psychosomatic illness, and all of a sudden, problems.
I know. It was insane.
And it's just a matter of time, because I remember
I consciously rejected
Yep.
what they were
Yep.
teaching me. Yeah.
And we can reject it as much as we want consciously, but the conscious mind holds no memory. It's the subconscious mind that generates all of our behaviors. And before we have an accident, there's always a limiting decision that precedes an accident. So an example of that is my wife in 2009, we were living in Dubai, and she said, husband, I want a job where I get paid to do nothing.
What?
And I said,
What?
sweetheart, I said, well, good for you if it happens, but why don't you do what you want to do? She says, I don't know what I want to do. And for 6 months, she kept saying, I want a job where I get paid to do nothing. Now, in Australia, that sounds like a workers' compensation plan. Sounds like you're going to get injured and you're going to get compensation.
Disability.
Disability, exactly.
Yeah.
And so she kept going and going and going. And then one morning at 4 a.m., I received a telephone call. Daniel, this is the duty controller for Emirates Airline. There's been an accident, but this is not a peer support call. I said, if it's not a peer support call, what is it? And he said, your fiance's had an accident on the aircraft. Can you come straight down to the hospital? Mm-hmm. So I went to the hospital. She's had an accident and her kneecap has exploded into 5 pieces. She goes in for an emergency surgery. She has a second surgery and a third surgery. And for the next 2.5 years, she has a job where she gets paid to do nothing. And the same thing for her.
So she created that. She created that reality. So one of the things they teach in energy.
And we call that one autogenic conditioning. So you had heterogenic conditioning. She had autogenic conditioning where she spoke that into existence. She created that. And you know what? After it happened, she said, that's not what I wanted. So that's what I wanted 2.5 years ago.
This reminds me of my friend. My friend she's in her 60s now, but she told me, Annie, when I was in my 20s, I always looked at people at 40 years old as old. So she always subconsciously in her head told herself, man, if I live to 40, that's really old. I want to die when I'm 40. I don't want to be that old. She looked at other people who were over 40. She's like, I never want to be that old. On her 40th birthday, she got into a car accident, broke 40 bones in her body. Yeah. And then her life flashed before her eyes. She went into this bright room where they showed her everything she ever did in her life. So basically she had this near-death experience, and they showed her those moments when they said, I wish I could die at 40 years old. And she saw literally how her thoughts created the reality that she was living.
Mm.
Yeah.
When I was about 17, 18, my brother had an accident when we were wakeboarding, and he ruptured his anterior cruciate ligament. And so he went through 5 knee reconstructions, and then afterwards he got this really cool knee brace. And so his knee now looked like RoboCop's knee. And he used to wear this brace, and I'm like, that is so cool. That looks so awesome. I'd love to have one of those. But you got to get an injury.
You know where
and then
that's going.
Magically, one day I have an accident and I rupture my posterior cruciate ligament. And now what do I get? I get to wear the brace. And the thing about the unconscious mind is we can't focus on what we don't want to focus on. So if we say, don't think about a red Ferrari, you've got to think about a red Ferrari, then you say, I shouldn't be thinking about that.
Yeah.
If you say, don't think about a blue tree, you got to think about a blue tree first, and then you've got to say to yourself, I shouldn't be thinking about that. But that's how the mind works. So even if you're trying to focus on what you don't want, even if you're saying, I don't want to have an accident, I don't want to break bones, I don't want to hurt my wrist, you're still focusing on that. And a function of the unconscious mind is it doesn't process negative words. So if you say, I don't want to be in an accident, the unconscious mind hears, I want to be
an accident.
in an accident.
Yeah.
If you say, I don't want to be broke, I don't want to be in debt, the unconscious mind hears, I want to be broke, I want to be in debt.
Well, that's why I don't do that. That's why the affirmation on my mirror is I'm going to make $1 billion, not just a million, but $1 billion. And I'm going to be an expert at sales and marketing. Like prior to this year, I had no clue how to do sales and marketing. But all of a sudden, I swear to God, when I'm like driving in the car, I get random ideas for sales and marketing just entering my brain. I'm like, wow, this is really creative. I really got to write this down.
See, what you've activated a part of the subconscious mind, and we call it the reticular activation system. And the reticular activation system, RAS, constantly scans your environment for a match of your most dominant thoughts. So if you're constantly thinking about having 50 streams to your business, what will happen is your mind's programmed to look for these opportunities. And everybody's had the experience. You think about, I'm going to buy a BMW. I'm going to buy a 3 Series BMW, and almost like magic, everywhere you go, you see a 3 Series BMW. You pull up to the lights, there's one beside you. You park in at the shopping centre, there's one across from you. You look across the street and one drives right in front of you, and all of a sudden they're everywhere.
Yeah.
The question is, were they there before you thought about it? Absolutely.
There.
You just hadn't activated the reticular activation system. And that's the beautiful part about affirmations is you're driving home a consistent thought. One thought and you activate the unconscious mind. And then it does its job and it looks for that 24 hours a day. Even in our sleep, if you can understand your dreams, the unconscious mind is filtering all of this information through that dominant thought. So I'm a big believer in affirmations, and I think all business people should do it. And the key is you've got to say it how you want it. Don't say what you don't want. Say what you do want.
Wait, but I do want to share something with your audience that has changed my life when it came to affirmations, because there are some things that were like, I have some limiting beliefs surrounding music that I couldn't figure out. Like, for example, music theory was really complicated for me, and I couldn't use the affirmation like, I can learn music theory, or like music theory is easy. It just seems so unbelievable to me that because without even just an ounce of truth to it, it wasn't like planting in my brain for some reason. So I actually have these ladder thoughts that people can use as a template. They're in this book. So for example, I am learning to ... I am learning to do sales and marketing, right? Or even though sales and marketing is really difficult and complicated, it's possible I can get really good at it. So these are basically like in-between thoughts because they do have an ounce of truth to them. I'm open to creating 50 marketing funnels for my business. I'm looking forward to having a lot of money because I've got so many sales in the pipeline. It's possible that I can create 50 sales marketing funnels. I'm willing to consider the fact that anyone can learn marketing. I'm on my way to becoming a marketing expert. I'm choosing to believe that I can learn marketing. I'm in the process of creating so many marketing funnels for my business. So basically, with those kind of templates that you can use to start off your affirmation, kind of like just a stepping stone, then when you get comfortable with that kind of thought, like plant that into your belief system, you can finally move on to like the full thought, like I am good at marketing. I am an expert at this. I have found that has really helped in getting my affirmations to get planted faster.